Thought I heard the bell chime,
There you go.
and here she returns. Okay.
They're on the air.
Oh, come on. We got a lot of paper tonight.
Yes.
Okay, so here we go. Good evening. Welcome to the Town of Emmitsburg Town Meeting for March 5th, 2018. At this time, I'll ask folks in our audience to please turn their phones to the silent mode or off in respect to the decorum of our meeting. And now I will ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, we have Commissioner Ritz present, Commissioner Buckman present, Commissioner O'Donnell present. We were advised that Commissioner Sweeney will not be able to join us this evening, and we are anticipating the imminent arrival of Commissioner Blanchard, and the Mayor, Mayor Briggs, is with us as well. So we now turn to our future meeting announcements. The Town Council will next meet on Monday, April 2nd, here at 7:30 p.m. Any other meetings to announce at this time?
I don't have any.
No, hearing none, we move forward. Okay. My hope is everyone's had the opportunity to review the minutes from the preceding meeting on February 5. Are there any thoughts or modifications or enhancements that we hope to see?
I had none.
No? Commissioner Buckman? No, very good, okay. Is there a motion, rather, to accept the minutes as presented, therefore?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from the, what's the date?
February 5th?
The February 5th town meeting.
Very good. Okay, is there a second for the motion?
Second.
The motion's been made by Commissioner Buckman, seconded by Commissioner Ritz. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, the motion carries 3-0 with Commissioners Sweeney and Blanchard absent. We now turn to the deputy for this evening's sheriff's report. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, everybody. Deputy Whitehouse with the Sheriff's Office, Frederick County Sheriff's Office. This is the February 2018 Community Deputy Report. Everybody, okay, yeah, everybody's copy. Let's see, the thefts on here, there was 4 of them. The bulk of those were from the Dollar General store. And the other was from a vending machine, a soda machine at the Jubilee, where someone decided to drill the lock out of it, and they made access to it, taking coins and paper money.
Wow.
Disorderly conducts, the bulk of those, there was 8 of those. The bulk of those were from 2 different addresses. Let's see here, the traffic stats for the month, we had 35 stops. You can see what we have written there as far as the citations and warnings for the month. The arrests and violations, the traffic arrests were 6, criminal arrests were 4. The bulk of the criminal arrests are from thefts from the Dollar General that we were able to actually catch up and charge people with. 4 warrants served and 3 criminal summons. The calls for service and the special assignments, that's just the case numbers from the arrests from what we had. I think we ran out of room in there, so there's nowhere else to squeeze them in. And on the back for the additional information, it just shows what Deputy Mostauer and myself did, other things that we did throughout the month. You can see that Mostauer contacted the Washington Township in regarding some shoplifting suspects at the Waynesboro Walmart. He was able to give that jurisdiction their information and have that jurisdiction file for charges. And you can see what I did for the month in addition is did 10 reports, 1 crash report. I spent 5 days at court, or I had 5 court days. I assisted patrol with a couple calls out of town, met with the Mount staff in regards to some of the Mount kids and the disorderly in the town. So I just went over and met with Diane Kelly. Presented the town report last month, and I have pending trespass charges for an individual relating to the Dollar General. So, no, that was quick. Any questions?
Any questions for the deputy?
One,
Yes.
the out of town, are just outside of jurisdiction, or
Yeah, just outside of the
do you
town.
do anything in Frederick?
No.
Okay.
No.
So there's a deputy that looks a lot like you. I saw on 85, or off 85 on Crestwood Boulevard one morning. I was like, wow, he's
No, I don't make it to Frederick,
Okay.
but a lot of us probably have the same haircut and, kind of look the same in the car.
Yeah.
There's-
Sunglasses
it
and
was your
all.
evil twin.
Yeah,
Kind of dress
same
alike.
idea.
I
Yeah.
noticed that. I was,
Well, yeah, I mean, no, the answer, no, I wasn't.
Okay.
I wasn't in Frederick, but yeah.
I had to do a double take.
Any other
Okay.
questions for the deputy related to the report? Regarding the crashes.
Yes.
Were any of the collisions related to construction in town or?
No, I forgot. I knew someone was going to ask that, but no, it was the one crash report I had to do, and it was not related to the construction.
Okay, very good. Okay, thank you, sir.
All right.
All right, thank you very much.
All
We
right,
appreciate
thanks.
it. Please be safe. Okay, moving forward, we now turn to the town manager's report.
Good evening. This is the town manager's report for January of 2018. I'll go through some of the highlighted points. Under streets, staff salted streets for several snow events. A contractor came in and assisted with snow removal and salting. We put up the snow flags on the fire hydrants, and the snow emergency signs went back up in Southgate and Park Drive. For the sidewalk and bridge project, staff came in over one weekend to address the streetlight outage that went on for days on East Main Street. A contractor installed, it should say connector. Contractor installed a new connector in the streetlight control box on Federal Avenue. And staff removed the kiosk from the square as they're beginning the work on the southwest quadrant. Related to water service, staff used a turbo heater to unthaw some water lines. Staff installed a new water service for 8935 Hampton Valley Road, and staff connected a 1-inch temporary water line to the 8-inch line due to the major break in the main service behind 8744 Crystal Fountain Road. Underwater, Rainbow Lake is at its spillway level still at 16.6 feet. We met our goal of 57% of the water came from Rainbow Lake, and 37.9 water in January came from the wells. In wastewater, we received 4.7 inches of rain in the month of January. We currently have a surplus of only 0.36 inches. Under wastewater, we treated an average of 427,000 gallons per day and consumed 259,919 gallons per day, which means that 39.1% of the wastewater treated this month was wild water. We had one spill of untreated sewage on January 13th due to the pumps at the pumping station not working, which I think I'd mentioned to you at the previous meeting. We did exceed the plant's design capacity one time in the month of January. If you drop down to noteworthy, pumping stations, which we discussed at the last meeting, the pumping station quit working. A high level was encountered and the pumps got clogged due to the amount of debris. It was not caused by an electrical surge like we first believed was the case. That backup caused an overflow at manhole 98, which had to be reported to MDE. Staff is in the process of obtaining quotes and estimates for relining the sewer lines on West Main Street. And staff's continuing to work on quotes for the 8-inch main water line on the mountain and resolving that issue. One notice we did receive today that, for everybody's notice, is the fire marshal has issued a total ban on the burning, on outdoor burning, effective immediately until further notice. And so we were going to get notice, I believe we got notice up today on 99 and Facebook.
Great. Okay.
And that's all I have for the manager's report.
Very good. Any questions for the manager related to this report?
I do. The pumping station that quit working because of a high level of waste, was it unusual, someone dumping an unusual amount of waste, or we just weren't monitoring it?
As
or-
I mentioned, as I noted at the last meeting, we pulled out 2 buckets full of paper towels, industrial paper towels,
That's
cloth.
unusual?
Yeah, because it should not be ever put down your drain. And for some reason, we did receive that much. So somebody was dumping in January.
Great. Okay, Mr. Ritz?
The meeting regarding the after-school clubhouse,
Yes,
Who's Irma? just says-
Irma is in charge of the after-school clubhouse. She's been in charge of it for 30 years. We've only taken over the program maybe 10 years, but when Parks and Rec was here, it's a program that is for elementary school kids. They come Monday through Thursday for a couple hours after school, October to March. She's been doing it for, like I said, 30 years. She's looking to retire. So we're not sure the direction of the clubhouse. We're looking for somebody to maybe take over the program.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Mayor?
Is there something we should read about the closed session?
Let me check.
Yes.
There is. Okay, very good.
Excuse me.
All right, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much.
mean to bump.
Okay,
Did you hear me? Okay.
I did. All right. So here we go. At the close of the March 5th, 2018 town meeting, there will be a closed executive session as permitted by the general provisions, Article Section 3-305B, closed meetings, Item 8, pending or potential litigation. Okay, so we're advising that we will have this closed session tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
President?
Yes, sir.
I got a question.
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
I just had a quick question. You said the fire marshal. Did you repeat that? What is it?
Oh, sorry. The fire marshal, I believe it was yesterday. Actually, this morning, the fire marshal issued a total ban on outdoor burning. So you can't burn anything outdoors, effective immediately until further notice. I suspect it's because of all the winds that we are having.
Okay. I was like, I mean, people having.
We don't
girls-
typically get them in the
Yeah, I was
wintertime,
like,
but,
I was just like, I'm trying to think in my head. I was like, what's going on?
right,
Okay, so the wind effect. Okay,
Yes.
makes sense. All right.
And we're expecting more of the same,
correct.
starting, I guess,
Okay.
Wednesday, tomorrow evening into
Yes.
Wednesday and maybe
I'm just used to
Thursday.
that, like in fall or like summer when things are dry. That's
I
why
know, I
was
was
like,
surprised to see it
March, what-
myself.
Just didn't click. All right, it makes sense. It makes sense now. Okay, got it.
Okay. Any other questions for town manager? All right, hearing none, we move on. Okay, we now look at the town planner's report.
Yeah,
We again turn to the town manager.
right. This is Ms. Sipler's report. She highlighted some areas, to note on here. Number 3, she submitted the quarterly report for fiscal year 2017 for the square revitalization. We received $75,000 for that. No funds have been utilized yet. However, we will be submitting reimbursement requests after the next state highway invoice. We've only received 2 invoices so far, one for the water line work and one for one of the seat planners. Number 5, Brookfield Development. She received a permit application for a model home on January 10th, 2018. Just one of the highlighted areas. All new single-family structures in Frederick County are required to have sprinklers, and our town code also requires this. Under permits, she issued a solar roof permit to Seton Center. Provided information to McDonald's regarding their sign ordinance and other aspects of their upgrade project. In case anybody is not aware, McDonald's is going to be upgrading and updating this McDonald's here in town, starting with the parking lot and their signboards, correct? Yes. On January 30th, she attended a meeting in Frederick County regarding new mapping of the floodplains. Number 10, she met with Becky Wilson of DNR to do a biennial forestry review and examine reforestation projects. Ms. Wilson used a contact at Potomac Edison to get action and review on the Emmett Garden trees. So we're anticipating late spring, early summer for removal. She was able to pull some strings on that.
Okay.
The Emmett Gardens, we issued the playground town permit on February 16th, so work can begin.
Great.
And that looks like everything that she had highlighted. She did give me permission to announce that Ms. Sipperly will be retiring from the town on July 26th of this year. Our goal is to advertise for the position about mid-April, conduct interviews in May, and bring a recommendation to you in June, as we would like to have at least 2 or 3 weeks of overlap with Ms. Sipperly with the new planner, starting with the new fiscal year.
Great. Okay, any questions for the town manager related to the planner's report?
No, just thanks for the update on the trees.
You're welcome.
As a management question related to staff departing, like senior staff departing, the overlap is a great idea. A question I have relates to departure time. Do we know if Ms. Sipperly, and this is obviously early in the process, but if she intends to be available through July 26th, or is there time, for example, she might have available where she might depart early?
No, she advised me today her last day will be July 26th.
Okay, very good. So we anticipate seeing her
Right,
through June,
through July.
Terrific.
Right.
Okay, very good. All right, and related to the community legacy heritage grants,
Yes.
the funding is going toward, if I understand what you said, the planter, and what was the second item?
No, that's not correct.
Okay.
Right now, we've only received 2 invoices from State Highway. The 2 invoices we received
Okay.
were for the water line, which was paid out of the enterprise fund, and the seat wall planter, which we paid ourselves.
Okay,
The 75,000 can be used for other larger invoices that are going to be forthcoming,
okay, all right.
related
Terrific.
to either landscape, brick, design, not
Okay.
design, but planters, things like that.
Great, all right, thank you for clarifying that. All right. Anybody else? No? Okay, moving forward, we now turn to the commissioners' comments. Commissioner Buckman.
Yes, so for, I guess, about 4 or 5 months, the light has been out at the schoolhouse apartments, the Potomac Edison light. We've called them twice, but it's still out. And also the pathway in the town park that gets flooded is really just underwater most of the time.
Right.
I don't know if we could put a retaining wall or a bridge over that little area so people could walk through there.
Which path? The walking path or just
Town park, the walking path.
In
like a-
community park?
Yes,
Okay,
not the exercise trail?
before, by the playground, near that area where it floods.
Yeah, I don't know that there's. I can ask staff, but I'm pretty sure there's nothing. There's no retaining wall that I think that you can put there.
Or a bridge, something.
Like a
that's
boardwalk,
always
maybe?
underwater. A boardwalk.
like a boardwalk, like a
Yeah.
walking day? Okay, all right.
That's it.
Anything else? No? Okay. Commissioner Ritz.
Just a general invitation to anyone who may be interested in serving on the Parks and Recreation Committee. I may be losing some members due to lack of participation. One last call, too, for any potential bands who may be interested in playing this summer. I need to give you some dates. I don't need to do it tonight, do I? But at least to lock in some potential dates for concert
Right. If you
series.
just want to email myself or Miss Shaw your potential dates, and we can pencil them in.
Would I be safe to have those to you by Friday? Would that be acceptable?
I believe so.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Great, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioner Blanchard.
Yes. Coming up over the next 2 weekends, people are looking for some things to do in the local area. Cunningham Falls State Park is having its annual Maple Syrup Festival the next 2 weekends. They have a pancake breakfast in the morning. They also have bands planned, a tent basically for kids, activities, things of this nature. Also a hayride around the lake. And again, for full disclosure, I do have to say I'm an employee of Cunningham Falls State Park during the summertime, so to put it out there. So, anyways, so you're looking for something to do next 2 weekends.
Is it fee related? I'm
It is
assuming
fee
the food
related.
is, but
Yeah, it is fee related.
Okay.
I don't know what they charge to get in, but it is fee related.
Okay, and you
So.
definitely recommend it though, so that's
Okay.
great.
Yep, it's a good time.
Anything else, sir?
That's it.
Okay, very good. Thank you, sir. Okay, couple quick items. There's going to be a impromptu trail work event this Sunday. As so many trees have fallen down, there's a need to remove a lot of deadfall from the trails. That will begin at 9 o'clock. People are going to meet at Rainbow Lake. There will be food beforehand and food afterwards for our volunteers. All hands are welcome aboard. We'll be meeting at Rainbow Lake at 9. Moving from there, I did have the opportunity to attend a number of meetings. February 11th, I went to the Stop, Swap, and Save event and did town promotion. I met with biking clubs from across the East Coast and have invited them to our community day. A number of them have already set up charity rides, so we're hoping to get some of them to do some training rides in town also on top of their charity rides they already do here. On the 15th, I was able to attend the Livable Frederick presentation at Catoctin High School. Livable Frederick is the new county plan that they're moving forward through the process and submitting it to the county council for approval and adoption. It's a little bit different than plans we've seen in the past in that it takes a little bit more of a dynamic view and includes other variables such as health of the community, and I even think there's a happiness quotient in there somewhere. Moving beyond that, I was able to attend the highway user revenue hearing for on the House side in Annapolis. I was able to attend that with the mayor. There was a very large turnout from Maryland municipalities. A lot of elected attended, trying to get restoration of those funds. The state is withholding from municipalities, and we hope to see returned promptly to municipalities to take care of our roads. On the 27th, I attended a NICA meeting. This is a youth program for mountain biking. It is essentially like cross-country running, but it's an organization that is starting up in Maryland. In Pennsylvania, they had 300 participants in its first year. Last year, in its second year, they had 600 participants. So the program seems to be pretty popular, and it's open to any young person between middle school age and senior in high school. And they provide all sorts of discounts if one needs to buy a new bicycle. So another healthy activity we're going to hope to see also offered here in town. Beyond that, there's construction again in the Brookfield development. They actually built the foundation of the new model home that's there. You can actually drive by. People are doing so. It's interesting because the weather slowed the process down, but I think they'll be framing it or bringing in the platform. What do you call those? The flats to build the house probably this week. I would expect. I don't know. Moving beyond that, let's see. Oh, I did receive a request from one town resident related to forestry, being able to join with the town in an effort to plant trees along Brookfield Road, along the area between the sidewalk and the road, between the curb and the sidewalk. There certainly seem to be areas for tree wells there. Our green expert, Mr. Mayor, described it as a heat sink, and there would definitely be environmental value to it, and it would add value to those properties as well. And also, just it's the right thing to do in my view. So someone approached me about that, and I think that has some serious momentum. So I'm hoping we'll hear something more about that in the near future. So that concludes my remarks. So with that, I turn to the mayor. Mr. Mayor. Oh, thank you.
Okay, excuse me, thank you very much. I also attended the Living Frederick Planning Program on February 15th. We went into reaction with the events down in Florida. We have custody of children at our after-school program, so we're very concerned about how we were moving them from the elementary school to our after-school program. So we did spend some time on that. Excuse me, I'm stuffing up a little bit. I apologize. It's very serious security, and I think our elementary school is doing a fantastic job on theirs. And we just were concerned there. So we did put some time in on that. I also, as Commissioner O'Donnell stated, I also went to the hearings over in Annapolis on the HERS highway user revenues, and I think we made some impact. We'll see what happens. Last day, February 28th, I attended the Afro-American History Month observance. Presenter was Frederick City Alderman Roger Wilson, who is also the county executive's right-hand man, and that was over at FEMA, NEC campus. A very, very good presentation. Today, Planner Sipperly and I did meet with the McDonald's permit rep, and I think everybody will be pleased with the upgrade of what they're planning for there. And I know we're squeezed right now for volunteers, but I think it's sort of the ebbs and flows and where the kids are in the family, the composition of families. But I really want to thank all the volunteers we have at Food Bank, Seton Center, the Pregnancy Center, Backpacks for Kids, Catoctin Feeder School, and our wonderful scouts, 727 scouts and their cubs. They're out there. It's just that, timing and evening meetings are very tough. And but we do have a lot of wonderful volunteers out here, not to mention those who are affiliated with churches here in town. And I only have listed a few. I think you'd all come up with all the people that help Commissioner O'Donnell up on the trails. I mean, people are there. They're doing their best with the time they have available. And I think that's all I've got, sir. Thank you.
Great, thank you, sir. Okay, we now turn to public comments, and I have written down Mr. Donald Son. And I'm going to beg your pardon, am I pronouncing your last name correctly?
Son, S-O-N-N.
Great, all right.
Close enough.
All right.
Hi, everybody. Just wanted to bring up,
If you could name yourself.
my name is
and-
Donald Son. I own Emmitsburg Tattoo Company, 2 West Main Street.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Done and done.
Good evening, everybody. Just wanted to bring up for the record a curb that was recently re-poured in the new construction project on Federal, coming off of Main Street. You make the right onto Federal Avenue. It cost me a tire a couple weeks ago. A real sharp point with a metal grate sticking out of it, which is, I believe it's for the storm drain there. But I don't know if they're finished with that work yet or not, but it's a pretty sharp turn as it is, and it cost me a tire. And Joe and I talked about it out in the hallway. He had noticed it as well, so just wanted to throw that out there. Number 2, I want to ask the council if they know, if anyone knows who's going to be planting and taking care of the new planters on the corners on the town square, the refurbished town square. I know in front of my place they had to change the plan up, and I'm now being told there's 3 planters in front of my building where there was initially 1, if you look at the plan out in the hallway. Just curious who is going to be planting and who's going to be maintaining, if that was my responsibility. Lastly, cigarette butts. Is there... My clients are all instructed to use an ashtray, which I provide, out in front of my shop. So it's terrible. I have my person who helps me clean on the weekends come and sweep out all the parking spots, and it's awful. It's awful. So, look, rubbish happens, right? People with the cars and stuff. I try to do my best as far as, like I said, providing an ashtray for folks. So if there was some kind of citation process, I think that might help curb it. I don't know what the answer is, but it's awful. And I hate to see this brand new, really nice facelifted town square get litter and trash. I'll take care of it in front of my business, but
Yeah, it washes down my street also.
yeah, so that's all I had.
Sure.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you. Let's hear from town staff.
I can answer
And I'll ask if you have questions to her
Pretty much all
directly
your
through
questions.
me, the sort of roundabout way.
Got it.
the curb at Federal and the storm drain. The last I heard, they're having design issues at Federal on both sides and are still working on that.
Okay.
But I'll double check because I thought they had fixed. You're talking about the north side. I
Correct.
thought they had finished there, but I will double check with them.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
As far as the planters are concerned, they are not your responsibility.
Okay.
For the first year, SHA landscape contractor will plant and maintain the
Oh, okay.
plants. After the first year, they are the town's responsibility then,
Okay.
not the actual property owners.
Okay.
And the cigarette butts, I 100% agree with you. The mayor has been pressing to do that. We are in the process of submitting a grant for cigarette ashtrays to put up along the tall ones
Yeah,
up
right.
along the square and Main Street. We're in the process of doing that. We would like to look into enforcement on the cigarette butts.
Great.
So I agree.
Thank you.
Right.
Appreciate
That
it.
squares us
Thank you.
away. Okay. And I'll say, I've been on the square a few times sweeping up myself in front of all 4 corners there,
It's
and
all for about
it accumulates, and it's brutal, and it's beer cans, and it's this and that. It's a high-traffic area, and unfortunately, not everybody respects it.
Agreed.
Perhaps in time, we'll see more trash cans return. That might be good. One thing I'm intrigued by is if you look at some of our retail sites in town, especially near the Jubilee, but not the Jubilee, where Subway is located and Carleo's and the
Yeah.
liquor store and so on, they actually lack trash cans in front of their property, which I believe, I would assume, is a cost-cutting measure of the property owner. And I'd like to see maybe the board at a future time consider perhaps requiring something like that of a private property, because I understand the risk they run of people coming and dumping their trash, but at the same time, that is, in a way, the front yard of Emmitsburg. When people come driving down the hill, the first thing they see is, the McDonald's, which was pretty immaculate in their parking lot. I mean, if you can imagine. The Exxon, which is offset, but everything blows, it seems, toward the Jubilee. And I don't know that it's always the Jubilee's trash or their customers who are doing the trashing. So, yeah, definitely we have to be more mindful of the trash. And if we can do something as a council, I think that would be a very positive thing on our part. So, and thank you.
Thank you
Sorry
very
about your
much.
tire.
Appreciate it.
Could I
Okay,
add-
that's
add
it.
some-
Sure.
So regarding that,
It's to Mr. Son or to the board?
well, no, it's something that Mr. Sun said, but regarding that curb, I know it's a work in progress, but it because of the location of the storm drain, it is a very abrupt end. So if there's a way they can at least slope it down.
I think
be
they're
great.
looking at a couple of different things. It's proven to be tricky for them to come up with a good design for that corner. So we have another actually progress meeting with them on Thursday.
Okay.
So I'll talk to them about it then.
All right.
Okay, so I think that is the end of our public comment piece. So now we turn to administrative business and an update related to LG Sonic device.
Yes. We just wanted to give you a brief update before the unit is reinstalled, hopefully within the next week or two. Staff and I were able to sit down and go over the numbers. The LG Sonic was installed on April 11th of 2017, and it was removed for the winter on December 21st, 2017. So to actually compare your numbers for 2016 and 2017 to get a good idea of how it worked, we are comparing April 2016 to December 2016 and April 2017 to December 2017, a total of 8 months. In 2016, there was no algae system. In 2017 is when the algae system was working. Some of our goals. The first goal we did not meet. The average number of backwashes per day. In 2016, there were 10 backwashes. In 2017, there were 10.87 backwashes. The backwash water usage. Your backwash water is the percentage of water that's wasted, essentially wasted to make clean water. In 2016, backwash water usage was about 19.71%. In 2017, it was 14.08%. So the amount of water that was needed during these backwashes was reduced. For example, in 2016, it took over 30% to clean the water. In November 2017, it only took 15% of the water. So although there was no reduction in the overall number of backwashes needed, the amount of water was reduced because the roughing filters did not take as much water to get them clean because they weren't getting as clogged. The amount of water used during the backwashes was reduced from 2016 to 2017. The total reduction was approximately 384,888 gallons per month, or a 26.4% overall savings in water, which is the equivalent of 50.5 taps. The average flow for the lake was 159,600 gallons per day, which exceeded our target flow of 162,000. Overtime at the water plant was reduced by 31% overall, from just over 9,000 in 2016 to just over 6,000 in 2017 because we weren't receiving all the alarms. The chemical costs were reduced by 27% from 2016, which was essentially from 33,500 to about 24,400. We eliminated the need for Green Clean Pro completely, so that is no longer being put in the lake. The chlorine usage was also reduced by 26%. There was a slight increase in the DE usage and an increase in the soda ash. Soda ash usage was reduced by 21%, and there was only a slight increase in the coagulant use. So some of the noteworthy points that we came up with was one of the problems that we did have, which everybody is aware of, was the lack of communication. We lost an entire month at one of the critical hottest points in the summer when you need the algae control. The problem was fixed and we had no more issues for the rest of the year. And remembering that the main goal of the LG Sonic is to reduce the amount of toxins in the water by reducing the algae before it gets to the surface. The device performed excellent when dealing with the blue-green algae. It struggled in the fall with the brown algae, which when we talked to Kirschner, who we did purchase the unit from, there are other places that are struggling with the brown algae, so they are working on how to fix that, how to combat the brown algae. Number 3, there was a significant reduction in not only the cost of chemicals, but the amount of chemicals added to your water. The system will be put back in the lake in early March of 2018. We did see a significant improvement in the water quality. Lots of compliments from the fishermen. Staff feels the LG Sonic is working, has been beneficial to the water operations by not only reducing the amount of chemicals, but it also reduced the overtime and decreased the amount of water used in the backwashes. One point that was mentioned, I think I mentioned it earlier, EPA is going to start including algae toxins in their sampling to see if there's enough reason to promulgate a national primary drinking water regulation for the toxins. Monitoring will last from 2018 to 2020, after which EPA will decide if they need to move forward with any regulations. So right now they don't regulate the amount of toxins that come out of fresh water, but starting this year they're going to start pulling samples and see if there's a need to regulate it. So we are already forward thinking with our LG Sonic or algae control in the lake because we are already reducing our toxins.
Any questions for staff related to the LG Sonic piece?
Do you know the thresholds that the EPA might be regulating?
No, I don't.
Are we?
Yeah, I don't know. There was Kirschner brought it up. They had been at a conference, I believe, in Chicago where it was discussed. It's still, they haven't unveiled a lot of the information yet.
Okay.
I don't know what the thresholds are.
All right.
Be interesting to see.
Anything else? No? Okay, is there a bottom line savings that we can see related to years past from just the partial picture here?
As far as,
The expense that we incurred in water treatment pre-LG Sonic and post-LG Sonic?
well, just the ones that we haven't looked at the overall big picture, but the ones that we took into consideration, the 3 that we had talked about when we first brought the LG Sonic to your attention was the backwash water loss. So we have a savings there. The reduction in the amount of chemicals, the savings for chemicals, and then the savings for overtime.
I mean, the impression I get is that, yes, we're saving money. It just, sort of a bottom line would be a good thing. I know this was just a snapshot, short term, because we don't have the full picture, but the next time we look at this.
Well, I don't
like,
know, what else would you be looking for? I mean, this is,
Like the total saving,
Total cost
the total expenditure pre-LG for 1 year related to water treatment, and the total expenditure post-LG being used, that annual expenditure for
well,
water
it's not,
treatment.
I mean, you'll get that at the budget.
Okay.
You'll see that at the budget, but I think you got to compare apples to apples, and some of the overall water treatment doesn't have anything to do with the LG, so that may be up while the part of the LG Sonic has gone down, if that makes any sense.
Sure, it
Okay.
does. It
But
does.
yeah, you'll see that. You'll be able to compare the expenses at the budget.
Okay, the next question relates to the communication, and I apologize if I'm repeating this question. I don't mean to. I just don't recall. When communication broke, it's my understanding that we're paying for that communication. Did we get any reduction in that? Like, didn't we sign a
They
contract?
paid for the
to
first
monitor?
year. We did not pay
Okay.
for the communication. Now, we will
Okay.
take it over this coming year,
Okay.
and that's just an internet connection.
Okay, so if the failure was related to their equipment, or was it related to something on our end, or
They
satellite
they did not-
alignment,
they thought they could just connect off of Wi-Fi.
Okay,
And it worked for a little while, but as you know, being on the mountain,
Right.
Wi-Fi is very unreliable up there.
Precious
So
thing.
they had to install a satellite, something is not
Okay.
a dish, something along those lines. I don't have the particulars in front of me,
Okay.
and then that corrected the problem.
terrific.
It was not an expense they took into consideration.
Great, thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Additional savings is solar.
It is solar.
Solar
Okay.
operated, so
Okay, great,
the cost. There we go.
okay. Anybody else, final items? No? Okay, so we turn to the administrative business, second item that relates to the proposed trail route flagging for consideration. Unfortunately, Trail Conservancy didn't come forward with reports before the deadline for the packet being issued. So I can't come forward with how they intend to create the bid and assess the bids. And I was kind of concerned that they didn't meet the deadline. The other piece is in reviewing the flagged line. They did flag the line. It is not satisfactory what was flagged, the route that was chosen. So there are some concerns with that as well. The upside is, if we can, we would like to try to bring this back. I would like to bring this back to our next meeting. My hope is that we can continue, but I'm having some concerns related to that. But there are trail work dates that I would ask the board to give consideration to. So for trail work, these would have been dates that would have been connected to the project for corridor clearing, but that's not going to happen, not at the moment. So these will be just trail work days like we've done in the past, like the trail volunteer work day. Virtually all of these, 3 of 4 are Sundays, so it would be, let's see, April 22nd, a Sunday, May 20th, a Sunday, June 16th, a Saturday, Bloomsday, 6/24, a Sunday, June 24th, also a Sunday. And that would be, the 2 June ones are just prior to Community Day, when we have rides scheduled for folks coming in out of town and from in town to ride the trails and to do some trail stuff up there. So my hope is the board would be comfortable with those items, those dates.
9 a.m.?
9 a.m. is when we would start, and we typically finish at noon. It really depends on who our volunteers are and where their capacities are. Like if we have little guys out there, you know, they're done at 9:30, they're done at 10 o'clock, but we always love having families out there. And if it's someone more capable, then, you know, we work to what they're comfortable doing.
Remind us again, if you have applicable tools, go ahead and bring them.
We have tools available. They're all taken care of, so you don't have to wear anything out of your own. And the only thing we say is, you know, bring water. Some water will be there. Dress for the weather, dress for the work. We do it rain or shine. We don't allow sawyer work, like chainsaw work, unless it's pre-approved by town staff and the person has either the appropriate certifications in place or a fire and rescue certification similar, like capacity or qualification. The other thing is we have a reasonable breakfast in the morning and a pretty good lunch afterwards. Sometimes we'll come to a restaurant in town. Sometimes we'll have a barbecue at one of the pavilions. So, and, you know, even if somebody isn't working on the trail, if they want to come and join us for that, they're always welcome. So we're happy to have, you know, the more the merrier. It always works out to the community's advantage. So,
Thanks.
And I think Commissioner Blanchard's been there and thumbs up on the food.
Yeah, it's good.
Okay, and the work is hard.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. All right, so I'll ask the board if they would consider this, and I would turn this over to the treasurer, I believe, for a motion to
Oh,
accept
that's right.
this.
So Sweeney's not here. That's right.
So-
Okay. I think for a second, wait a minute, we're missing somebody.
A motion to accept the days as presented.
Okay.
Correct, okay.
Do we have a motion to accept the dates presented for the trail work?
I'll make a motion to accept the days as presented, 4/22, 5/20, 6/16, and 6/24.
Okay, we have a motion made. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone against? No abstentions? Motion passes.
Thank you. 4-0 with Commissioner
4-0.
Sweeney absent.
Yep.
Okay, very good. Thank you, sir.
Oh.
Thank you all very much. Moving forward, we have no items for our consent agenda. Nothing
Nope.
pro tem, no? Okay, and we now turn to the treasurer's report.
Yes. Mr. President, Town of Emmitsburg cash activity as of February 27th, 2018, $5,467,341. Cash balance forward to February 1st, 2018, $5,362,446. Operating balance forward. And as always, you have the top 10 check amounts. And then you have the vendor name, descriptions, the check dates, etc.
Any questions for the treasurer or staff related to these items? Just the last item, Capital Tri-State fixtures. Are those our
Streetlights.
lighting, streetlights? Okay, very good.
Streetlights.
Thank you. Okay, bless you. Okay, now we move forward to the Planning Commission report. Commissioner Sweeney's not here. Is there anything?
I just have I have a brief summary of Ms. Sipperly typed something up for me, knowing that Commissioner Sweeney was going to be absent. At their February meeting, after a lengthy discussion regarding short-term transient rentals, there was a motion that all rental units, short or long-term, should have to register with the town so we know how many and where they are and have a manager or owner to contact when an issue arises. Currently, the rental of individual rooms or short-term rentals of an entire house are not specific as an allowable use for residential property. The zoning ordinance does have definitions that are commercial in nature and would fit situations where short-term rental is the predominant use of a property. Commercial uses do need town permits and Frederick County permits. As you'll see when we get to, and that's their Planning Commission report. I'll just add that proposed for April's agenda would be a presentation by staff on short-term transient rentals, looking for a recommendation from the board on how to proceed. And that'll be forthcoming in April.
Great, okay.
But that's the Planning Commission report from Ms. Sipperly.
Okay, so we don't have the source, as it were. Any questions for staff? Be mindful that we don't have Ms. Sipperly available.
No, please, it's quick. Just it presented to us in April for us to consider, then to go to planning.
Correct.
And okay.
Correct. We'll give you a short, Ms. Sipperly will give you the PowerPoint presentation that she gave the Planning Commission and entertain a few questions, and then the board needs to make the determination if they're going to refer this to the Planning Commission for further work.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Okay, any other items related to this item? No? Okay, we now turn to our agenda items. And at this time, we welcome Michelle Mills from her accounting firm, and we now look forward to our audit presentation.
Your name tags.
It's not often we see Ms. Willits displaced, but okay.
All right, give us a few minutes to get set up here.
Sure. Yeah, we got a lot of papers tonight, don't we?
Lights.
She's waiting for the, yeah. The lights.
Yeah, okay. All right, cool.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Michelle Mills, and I'm the Audit Engagement Principal. With me this evening is Addie Blickenstaff, and she is the in-charge accountant who worked on the town's audit this year. We're here tonight to present the results of the fiscal year 2017 audit. The audit was completed in October, and the final report was submitted to the state of Maryland at the end of November. I'd like to start our presentation by just reminding everyone of the individual responsibilities, and it's important for you to recognize that management is responsible for the financial statements, and our responsibility as auditors is to plan and perform the audit to obtain reasonable assurance that there is no material misstatement to the financial statements, and to express an opinion on those financial statements based on our audit. The town received an unmodified opinion, which means it was a clean audit report with no material modifications. In your audit packet, you have the complete financial statement audit, which you will see is several pages. It includes 2 sets of financial statements as required by governmental accounting standards. You'll see that there are government-wide financial statements as well as fund-level financial statements. And as we're going through the financial highlights, at the very bottom of each slide will be a point of reference so that you can go back and look at the complete audit report and see where we're pulling the data. This is a very high-level summary of what we think is important for you to know as those charged with governance. So the very first required statement, government-wide financial statement, is the statement of net position. The total assets for the town is just under 41 million, and that's a 1.1% decrease from fiscal year 2016. And when we're talking about the activities for the town, we break them down into two categories: governmental activities and business type activities. Your business activities, business type activities includes the water and sewer operations, and that comprises 85% of the total assets, which is just about 34.7 million. And your governmental activities, which includes public safety, public works, parks and rec, general government, comprised 15% of the total assets at just over 6.1 million. This next slide is here to illustrate, when we talk about the total assets, to give you a point of reference as to what were the significant assets within each of the categories. So under governmental activities, you'll see that the cash and cash equivalents were just over 2.1 million. For our business type activities, the cash and cash equivalents were just about 5 million. And then you'll see the respective percentages of each. So for governmental activities, the cash and cash equivalents was 35.6% of your total assets and 14.4% when you looked at the business type activities. When you're looking at the total assets, you'll see that the largest is capital assets, which is land, buildings, improvements, and infrastructure. And for the governmental activities, it was just over 59.7%. And you can see on the business type activities, it's 84.4% of the total assets, just as a point of reference.
Next, we talk about the total liabilities of the town. Total liabilities were just over $8 million, which was a 2.9% decrease from fiscal year 16. As you can see, business type activities comprise the largest of total liabilities at about $7.1 million, or 89%, with governmental activities of approximately $900,000, or 11% of total liabilities. Next, we highlight the most significant liabilities between governmental activities and business type activities. As you can see, for governmental activities, long-term debt is approximately $265,000, or 29.1% of the total. If you compare that to your business type activities, which has a long-term debt balance of approximately $6.6 million, which is the majority of total liabilities at 93.3%. The next highest liability is the net pension liability, which represents $382,000 for governmental activities, or 41.9%. compared to about $277,000 for business type activities, or approximately 3.9%.
The next slide provides some definitions. When you look at the financial statements, you'll see that we have subtotals for assets and liabilities, and then we have something called deferred inflows and deferred outflows. So to provide some guidance to you, we have provided the definition. A deferred outflow is a consumption of net assets by the government that is applicable to a future reporting period. And at the end of fiscal year 2017, all of those activities related to your pension cost. And for governmental activities, it was just under $76,000, and for our business type activities, it was about $55,000. A deferred inflow represents an acquisition of net assets by the government that is applicable to a future reporting period, and that comprised several different types of things, including pension, unearned revenue, and benefit assessments. And for governmental activities, it was about $130,000, and for our business type activities, it was just under $42,000.
For clarification, the last term there in deferred inflows of resources, you mentioned benefit assessments, benefits related to individuals, like employee benefits. Is that accurate?
No, that's your benefit assessments related to Mountain View.
Properties and income related to properties?
Yes.
Great. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
So this gives you an accounting definition. So we're looking at assets plus your deferred outflows minus your liabilities, and your deferred inflows equals what we call net position. The net position for governmental activities was just over $5.1 million at the end of fiscal year 2017. And for our business type activities, our net position was over 27.6 million. And this is just a quick pie chart, again summarizing the total for the town at just being over 32.7 million, which was a less than 1% decrease from the prior year. And again, showing the representative percentages, where 84% of your net position was coming from business type activities and the remaining 16% was for our governmental activities. Now the next slide is going to summarize, actually no, I'm one ahead. This next slide breaks down your net position into categories. So the total net position at the bottom shows 5.1 and 27.6 respectively for governmental and business type activities. And then we need to break it down into categories. Most of our net position is capital assets net of related debt at just about 3.4 million for governmental activities. And you'll see for business type activities, it was 22.7. Restricted means it had a restricted purpose, usually from an external source. For our governmental activities, it was just about 206,000. And for our business type activities, it was just over 1.1 million. And then the balance that's not restricted or capital assets becomes unrestricted. And at the end of fiscal year 2017, we were at 1.5 million for governmental activities and just over 3.8 million for business type activities.
The next required government-wide statement can be found on page 10 of your audit report, and this is the statement of activities. This statement is the net expense format, looking at total expenses first and breaking down how those expenses are funded, either by program revenues or general revenues. For governmental activities, there was approximately $1.6 million worth of expenses. Program revenues are broken down into 3 separate buckets: charges for services, operating grants and contributions, and capital grants and contributions. As you can see, for governmental activities, there was about 270,000 charges for services, approximately 109,000 operating grants and contributions, and 148,000 in capital grants and contributions. So for your governmental activities, the expenses are mainly funded by your general revenues of approximately 1.4 million, which are your property taxes, real estate taxes, income taxes, etc. On the other side, for business type activities, total expenses are just under $2 million. As you can see, the business type activities recoups its expenses with its charges for services of approximately $1.4 million. There were no capital grants or contributions, and there was a small approximate $97,000 in general revenues. Revenues minus expenses is your change in net positions. Government-wide, there was a decrease in net position of approximately $201,000. Broken down into the separate activities, governmental activities reported a positive change in net position of $266,000, and business type activities reported a negative $468,000 for fiscal year 17.
As I mentioned earlier, we are required to report at a fund level as well. So the next several slides are going to highlight from a fund level perspective. And again, just as a reminder, when we speak of governmental funds, that includes your general fund and your capital projects fund combined. So when we're looking at governmental funds, our total assets are about 2.4 million. Our liabilities are just over 136,000, and our deferred inflows were roughly about 119,000, which left a fund balance of about 2.2 million. When we're looking at governmental funds and following the GASB reporting model, we're required to break down fund balance into the following classifications: non-spendable, restricted, assigned, and unassigned. And within the audit report, there, in the notes to the financial statements, are the definitions, and I think it's important to be aware of the definitions, so I would encourage you to read them. The restricted was just about 206,000. We had assigned, which was about 551,000, and then the remaining balance was about 1.4 in unassigned, for the total of just about 2.2 million. The next required statement at a fund level is looking at the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. Again, notice the terminology. We're talking fund balance and not net position. Our total revenues were just about 1.9 million. We had expenditures of about 1.7 million, and the excess of revenues and other financing sources over the expenditures was about 198,000. Now, I think it's important, to recognize the reconciling items between the two sets of financial statements. So this slide just kind of helps keep it in perspective that when we're talking about certain things, how they'll show up on the financial statements internally as well as at the year-end audit report. So when debt is issued for governmental funds, it shows up as an other financing source on the statement of revenues and expenses. And when we're looking at it on a governmental activities, which is full accrual, it becomes a liability. When we're talking about payment of principal on our debt at a fund level, it's an expenditure. And when we're looking at it from activity basis, it's a reduction of a liability. When we're building and constructing assets from a fund level, it's an expenditure, and you guys are familiar with the terminology capital outlay. But when we're looking at it from a governmental activities perspective, it becomes an asset that is subject to depreciation. Depreciation is only recorded on our governmental activities, and it is not reported when we're looking at fund level financial statements. Likewise, any of the pension-related items that we talked about only appear on your governmental activities, which are your government-wide financial statements. So this gives you a quick snapshot at a glance to recognize the key differences between the two sets of financial statements. As required by governmental accounting standards, we need to have a reconciliation. So this is included on page 12 of the audit report. When we talked about it from a fund level, we said that there was an excess of revenues over expenditures of about 198,000. However, when we presented the government-wide perspective, we said that there was a change in net position of about 267,000. So this slide will illustrate to you the items that I mentioned previously on how we got from a fund level perspective to the government-wide. We had principal payments on our debt of about 35,000. We had depreciation expense of about 190,000. We had capital outlay cost of about 258,000. We had the change in our compensated absences of about 20,000, and then the net pension adjustment of about 15,000. So this is a key part of the financial statements that shows the reconciling items between fund level and government-wide. This next slide's a little harder to see, but it does the same thing when we talk about fund balance to net position. And when we talked about fund balance for governmental funds, it was just over 2.1 million. However, when we talked about net position, we had a much larger number at 5.1 million. And you can see the various line items that make up the differences. Our property and equipment net of accumulated depreciation is about 3.6 million. Our deferred outflows of resources related to pension is about 76,000. We have a long-term receivable of about 45,000. We also have a deferred inflow related to pensions of a decrease of about 12,000. And then the bottom half shows liabilities that are only showing on our government-wide financial statements and not required to be on the fund level. Our long-term debt being about 265,000. Our compensated absences in total were about 128,000, and the net pension was just over 382,000. A lot of numbers, I'm sorry.
Next, we'll take a brief look at the town's proprietary funds, or the enterprise funds. The town has two enterprise funds, the water and the sewer fund. Here's a quick bar graph of the water fund looking at revenues and expenses as compared to the prior year. As you can see, there was a slight decrease in operating revenues of about 3%, went from about 503,000 to 487,000 in fiscal year 17. Operating expenses saw a 1% increase from approximately 571,000 to 578,000. Causing the operating loss from year to year to increase about 30,000 from 67,000 operating loss to 90,000 operating loss. Looking at the sewer side, operating revenues were comparable to the prior year, approximately a 1% decrease Fiscal year 16 had operating revenues of $925,000 compared to fiscal year 17 of approximately $911,000. Operating expenses saw a 20% increase. Fiscal year 16 reported about $1 million worth of expenses as opposed to $1.2 million in fiscal year 17. This caused the operating loss to increase significantly from about $99,000 to $319,000 in fiscal year 17. In the back of the audit report, there's a required supplemental schedule, which is called the budget to actual for the general fund. This schedule reports 4 separate columns: the original budget, the final budget, the actual results for the fiscal year, and the variance between the actual and the final budget. As you can note here, the original budget had total revenues of just under 1.7 million. Final budget had approximately just about 1.7 million, and the actual expenses were just in line with only about an $800 variance. Total expenditures as originally budgeted were about 1.5 million. There was no change in the final budget for total expenditures, and the actual came in with a positive $132,000 variance. There was a budgeted $121,000 in transfers, a final budget with an increase to about $188,000 of transfers. The actual results were in line with the final budget, which reported no variance. As you can see in the final column, the actual net change in fund balance was approximately $133,000.
A few financial highlights. As of June 30, 2017, the town's proportionate share of the net pension liability is just over $659,000. And again, because you are a participant in the state of Maryland's retirement system, the town did have additional borrowings of about $258,000 in fiscal year 2017, and that was to the sewer fund. As of June 30, 2017, the town had $6.9 million in related debt obligations, of which just about $370,000 will be due and payable within the next 12 months. So that gave some financial highlights. Now we're going to talk about a few other things related to the audit. The audit was performed in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards as well as government auditing standards. And in accordance with government auditing standards, we are required to look at the town's internal controls over financial reporting and compliance. And we are required to communicate to you in writing anything that we deem to be a material weakness in internal control. I have provided here the definition by professional standards as to what a material weakness is, and that is a deficiency or combination of deficiencies in internal control such that there is a reasonable possibility that a material misstatement will not be prevented or detected and corrected on a timely basis. As a result of our audit procedures, we did not identify any material weaknesses in internal control. We also did not identify any issues of noncompliance.
Outside of the audit, you each received what's called an AUC 260 letter. This is a communication with governance at the conclusion of the audit. I'm going to highlight some key points, but I would encourage you to read the full letter that was provided to you. No new accounting policies were adopted, and existing policies were not changed in fiscal year 2017. There were no transactions that were entered into by the town which lacked authoritative guidance or consensus. We encountered no difficulties in dealing with management in performing and completing our audit. No material journal entries identified in the course of our audit testing, and we had no disagreements with management that arose during our audit.
Okay, so as we turn to the question piece, I'm going to ask that we first address our questions to the auditors, and then if we need, we would then turn it to staff. Okay? So are there any questions at this time for the auditors related to the report that was just presented or things beyond the report? You like the lights? Sure, if we do the lights, that'd be great. Commissioner Buckman, yes. Oh, no, I thought you were trying to, okay. Mr. Ritz, anything coming to mind?
I mean, I didn't look in here yet. The significant increase in operating expenses to sewer proprietary funds, are they highlighted in this?
Yeah, you should be able to see it. It was related to depreciation expense. The wastewater treatment plant upgrade that occurred and was placed in operation at the end of fiscal year 16. We had only several months of depreciation in 16. Then in 17 came rolling around, that $17 million asset got placed in service, and so your depreciation expense went like this.
So it's strictly depreciation.
Yep.
Okay, Mr. Ritz, does that address that? Are there any more you have?
Yes.
Okay, yes, sir.
What is a long-term receivable?
A long-term receivable is something that is not expected to be collected within the next 12 months.
So that just rolls into the total debt that you
So,
presented, like the 6 point whatever million.
so a current receivable would be something that we expect to collect within the next 12 months operating cycle. A long-term receivable means we don't expect collection within the next 12 months. So just like we have short-term and long-term debt, we have short-term and long-term receivables. One's an asset and one's a liability.
And just because I can't help it, it just jumped out at me. The governmental funds, the fund balances, there was a non-spendable of $8. It just sticks out.
It's funny,
It's $8, but still, I was just curious.
The $8 was related to prepaid expenses that got allocated across the funds, and so that was the general fund's proportionate share of whatever that item was, and I'm not sure what that $8 was, but it was a prepaid item. Because the only thing that generally ends up in non-spendable is a prepaid item, an item that's been paid for in advance.
Someone's lunch.
Mr. Mayor? Okay, Mr. Ritz, any other questions?
I think that's all I have at this time.
Okay.
As I didn't look through this. But, okay, thanks.
Okay, I'm looking at page 12 of the shorthand report, and in looking at the revenues related to proprietary funds for water and proprietary funds related to sewer, there's a 1% decrease and a 3% decrease. Any information about is like less water is being used, therefore less sewer treatment is occurring?
So there were no changes in your rates in fiscal year 17, so any decrease in the revenues was related to a reduction in consumption.
Consumption, okay, very good. All right, so in one sense, therefore, our consumers are getting either, they're using less or maybe they're being more efficient
Right.
or all of the above. Okay, very good. Okay, thank you. Oh, and I've got to ask, my annual question. Though you shared in the last page related to management, were there any other issues related to staff interactions with the audit getting taken care of, information was forthcoming?
Everything that was agreed upon at the front end of the audit is exactly how it took place. Just to give you a quick update, we come in and do preliminary work in June, and when we come in to do preliminary work, it is to look at your processes and make certain we have updated policies. We do walkthroughs to make certain that your system is working the way you describe it to be working. We do test of controls to make certain what you think is happening is in fact happening, and we do all that at an interim basis. Then we were scheduled to return in October for what we call final field work, and that's when we were provided the final trial balance, and that's when we tied out all the balances and made certain all the accounts were reconciled. Staff were fully prepared and ready for us. As we mentioned, there were no material audit adjustments that were needed. All the items that we asked for were ready when we arrived.
Great, and sort of doubling back, again, thank you. I believe we uncovered the double signature issue in a past report, and we appreciate your sharp eye in helping us look for
Okay.
those controls and the exposures to high risk that we want to avoid. So thank you. Anybody else with any other questions related to this? Okay, so we now turn to town staff. At this time, do we need a motion to accept the report as presented? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and there it is. Therefore, is there a motion to accept the report from DeLeon and Stang as presented?
I'll make a motion to accept the report from DeLong and Stang as reported.
I'm going to ask you to modify that for
Oh,
more
sure.
specific, and that's my fault. If we could refer to this document as the fiscal year 2017 results of audit, or just audit. I think that would be appropriate. So, just
I can borrow
fiscal
that.
year 2017 audit.
All right. I'd like a motion, make a motion to accept the fiscal year audit 2017 results of the audit from DeLong and Stain.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second for the motion?
I'll second that.
The motion's been made by Commissioner Blanchard. It's been seconded by Commissioner Buckman. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of accepting it, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody abstaining or against? Okay, the motion carries 4-0 with Commissioner Sweeney absent. Thank you very much. We greatly appreciate you taking the time and coming up and presenting it with such clarity. Very good. Okay, so we now move forward.
Mr.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. Yes, sir.
I just want to thank our staff, Mr. Tabler and Reese Fryer, and of course, our town manager and Matty Shaw. They all did a wonderful job, and that really works very well in there. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna go out here for a minute. Hey.
Terrific. Okay, and of course, I closed my agenda briefly. My apologies. Okay, so now we turn to our second agenda item, which relates to the 2018 pool management contract for consideration.
Give me 1 second, get my
Yes,
stuff
ma'am.
back out.
And for the sake of clarity further, we do have a document related to that in our document packet that came forward that has this logo atop. This is what we're looking for now.
I don't have that.
All right. So what you have before you is a contract, but before we go over that, the pool management request for proposal was put out for bid on December 17th, 2018. Bids were due on February 2nd of 2018 at noon, and we received 2 total bids. We did public notice on the town's website, on the news feed. We also put it under a new tab for requests for proposals. We put it on Facebook, 99, and we advertised in the Frederick News Post, as well as mailing requests for proposals to individual pool management companies. As you can see what the submittal requirements were, we received, like I said, we received 2 bids. We received 1 bid from USA Pools of Maryland for $58,086, and we received a pool bid from RSV Pools Inc. for $54,489. Staff sat down and reviewed both requests for proposals, and staff we contacted references. Staff recommendation is RSV Pools. If you recall, RSV Pools was our pool management company in 2016, so we have a relationship with them already. Ms. Nail contacted 12 of their references on a scale of 1 to 10. Out of the 12, the lowest score was a 9. So they got 9s, 10s, 9.5s, all very highly recommended. They sign them for more than 1 year at a time to get a lower rate. So that's the staff recommendation for this year's pool management company. Do you want to go over the contract briefly?
I think there's value to that, yes.
Okay. It's essentially the same contract from 2016 with some modifications. John Clapp has reviewed the contract. He did give feedback. We got some feedback from the pool management company. This is the final contract.
Are you sure it's not your phone? Commissioner Buckman says he doesn't have a copy.
I believe put them all on everybody's
Doesn't have a
desk.
copy.
Is it on your
Oh,
desk?
on my desk.
Yeah, everything's on your desk.
I'll be back.
Okay. She's on her way.
Want me to continue? I'll wait. Want me to wait? I can wait.
Please wait. Great.
Are just some of the highlighted areas, subject to the terms and conditions. The pool would open on May 26th of 2018 which is Memorial Day weekend, which is 7 days earlier. And then close on September 3rd, 2018. The hours will remain the same from 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. And then weekends only, same thing, weekends only, 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. You've got the one guard that arrives at 11:30 to get everything open. The employees will wear uniforms. They will provide swimming lessons prior to the pool operating hours if sufficient interest arises. Contract is based on 252 work hours. 5 lifeguards on duty, standard guard coverage under the contract during this time. We'll have 3 pool parties, the dates to be determined, but require 5 guards on duty from either 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. or 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And 2 guards will stay 30 minutes after the pool. The RSV pool shall secure yearly certificates and/or permits required by the health department. RSV pool shall pay for the cost of certificates and permits. RSV pools will obtain and apply all necessary chemicals needed to balance and maintain water chemistry of the pool in satisfactory manner in the industry standards. I did mention they do maintain the splash pad as well. Then they go over their opening services. The town will prepare the pool for opening, have fresh water lines functioning for use by May 1st of 2018, which we will have ready to go. Trash cans, we provide them with keys, and a phone will be working. And then it goes over the daily maintenance and operations. Ms. Nail will once again be the point of contact during operating hours of the pool. At the end of the contract, RSV pools will remove from the pool premises any non-permanent equipment and supplies not approved by the town. If they should close for emergencies, thunderstorms, any case, if the pool is closed prior to 4:30 p.m. from Monday through Friday, the town of Emmitsburg will be notified for the reason and signs will be posted. A lot of times the pool closed in years past and the town wasn't notified and we would get phone calls. If it's after 4:30, they're required to notify us the next business day. One pool manager, 1 assistant manager, 5 guards. They'll carry a $10 million insurance policy. The contract is due in 7 installments. That's about, the rest of it is all the legal jargon that John Clapp went over and made sure that it was sufficient to protect the town.
Okay, any questions for staff related to the summary of the contract?
Yes.
Yes, sir, Mr. Ritz?
It looks like we have to have the town has to have the water line ready to go May 1st
Yes.
per the contract.
Yes.
How are we schedule-wise with the pool contractor?
The fresh water line is ready to go now. So
Okay.
if it needed to be turned on, we have, I take that back. We have one minor repair to the one hydrant that will not take much time. So we will be ready for the opening on May 1st.
So
Well, not the opening, but the fresh water line.
and the pool will definitely be ready to go come May 26th per the contract.
Yes.
We're scheduled.
Yeah,
If something weird happens, then
I
what
don't
happens to this
remember the
contract?
actual date that he was required to be done, but it is way prior to May 26th.
Okay.
And there are penalties if not. He's assured me that we will be ready to go. The pool roof also has to be completed prior to opening. And the retaining wall should be starting work on that here in the mid-March.
Worst case scenario, and penalties are assessed, and the pool's not ready to go, how does that adversely affect the contract?
It will be ready to go. It's going to be ready to go.
You're saying worst case scenario.
Worst case scenario, I think there is a clause in here for some reason, and I don't remember what page it is. It was addressed by John Clapp if it's not open, if it's not able to be open. I'd have to go through it and find that
Okay.
particular clause in here. Where's the opening at?
I stumped you.
Yeah, I don't have the exact information on that right now. I'm not sure where it is in here.
Okay.
Okay, anything else, Mr. Ritz? We can,
Are we approving, as long as there are no modifications, we are approving this tonight then?
yes, it is for
Correct.
consideration.
Okay.
Okay,
I can get you the answer. I can email everybody the answer to that, but with 99.9% confidence, the pool will be open on time.
sure, okay.
I mean, there's always emergencies that can arise, but in this case, it better open.
Commissioner Buckman?
Okay, so back when we were talking about what was going wrong with the pool before we repaired it, a lot of mention was placed on how pool management companies were not properly taking care of the pool, which was part of the problem. How are we going to assure that this company who was there before is taking care of the pool properly?
Because this company is not winterizing the pool. That was where the problems lie, or laid, whatever. With the winterization of the pool. They were not winterizing it properly, and that's where a lot of the problems, that's not the main reason the pool failed. The main reason the pool failed was at 40 years old and everything failed. But one of the contributing factors was the winterization of the pool. The winterization of the pool is going to be done by the pool contractor that has done the pool work for us to ensure that it is done properly. He has a vested interest in it to make sure that it is winterized correctly.
And they're training staff to do this also?
No,
Like-
staff will not be winterizing the pool.
At all?
It'll be solely up to the
That vendor?
contractor, yes.
Okay. Does that sort of put us at the mercy at their cost in the future, though?
Which we were already, we didn't typically do much with the winterization anyway.
Okay.
I mean, staff's not trained in winterization of the pool to ensure that it's done 100% correctly. It's worth the investment to have this contractor do the winterization.
Okay. I just think there's some wisdom having staff out there just
They
monitoring
know
the
the
process. and all.
basics.
Okay.
They knew the basics.
Okay. The other part, any other items? Go ahead, sure, please.
The summer is extended in Maryland from all the way to from Memorial Day to Labor Day. I can't remember which one's first. Does this include the whole?
September
Summer?
3rd, I believe, is
Is that
Labor
when
Day.
school starts, like around there?
September 3rd, I believe, is Labor Day, so yes. The pool will
Okay.
close after Labor Day.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then another question: Why did you guys select RSV over USA pools?
One was the cost. One was the familiarity of the company and already a working relationship. And in reviewing USA Pool's bid, they broke all their costs down, and they are a company that appeared to continue to add cost as things go on. So not only did they submit a bid
And their
for
references weren't good.
they not only submitted a bid for pool management, but they submit an invoice for opening of the pool, which is separate from just the management. They submitted a invoice or a price for chemicals. They use an outside company to clean.
Oh, I see.
So, and they're very commercialized and they're less hands-on. They're all computerized.
And then finally, sorry,
Oh,
I know the Lions Club had some interest in having a snack bar there. Is that something that we can put on for a future discussion?
Yeah, we have not heard anything from anybody on it.
Okay.
The initial interest in it, but we have not heard anything,
Okay.
any proposals from Lions Club.
Okay.
So sort of a request for a proposal, something that came to that will be sought?
No,
or
well,
just
no, it would be
come forward?
basically what they want to do.
Okay,
You know,
okay.
what their interest is, what they intend to sell, knowing the limited area and equipment there.
Okay.
Because
Anything
once you
else?
start selling too much food, then you have to get the health department in for the food side of it as well.
That's right. Okay. I'll let them know.
Okay. Anything else? Commissioner Buckman? No. Okay. Uniforms.
Yes, it says,
Where are we? Where's? Do you recall?
page 2.
Page 2.
Employees
Okay.
will wear uniforms identifying personnel as RSV pools and as lifeguards as appropriate. Page
Okay.
2,
Page 2. Page 2. Page 2.
top of page 2.
You see it?
I do. And this is required for all their staffers, so at the desk, in the office, on deck, in the
Yes.
chair? Okay, all right. I think that's just super important, because I think that really sets a tone for behavior for our younger guests, as it were.
If you recall, I don't know, in 2016, they all had them as
Okay.
well, so.
I remember.
I just know from pool experience when I was younger, uniforms would kind of wear out by the end of the summer with the chlorine and so on. So I just want to make sure that the vendor has them available for them, so they can replenish them and they're always kind of squared away. Because I think a big issue that we run into is the behavior piece at the pool. If the vendor doesn't take care of that, fewer people visit the pool. It's a less hospitable environment.
Right.
And I really think we have to be very forward with that expectation of their behavior and their appearance at the pool. Now, are there any behavior standards for them that we have in here for staff?
As far as what, the way they'll,
The RSV, department interactions with people, if a complaint comes forward, chain of command, that kind of thing?
probably not in here. But like I said before, we had a very good working relationship with them, and then based off of the, reference checks that they all provided, they were all very satisfied with the response to any questions that they had, any complaints that they had.
Okay. I guess here's where I'm coming from, and I don't mean to be the heavy on this, and I don't mean this
Well, I
toward,
don't think we
toward
can-
you,
go ahead.
but where I'm coming from is this. I mean, we've made a massive investment in this pool, and we want this to be an asset for the entire community to use. And in the past, it seems we've had challenge after challenge, not just with operation, but with staff and our guests, like members of the community visiting there. I want everyone to have a good time. I want everyone to feel safe. I want everyone to be comfortable in this environment. And it is incumbent upon staff that they have to recognize that, a high level of diplomacy, a high level of professionalism, absolute safety, the highest priority, but also how they comport themselves. I mean, you know what I'm talking about from your, many careers, as it were. That, everything they do is a yardstick by which the pool gets measured and by which the town gets measured. So I just hope we can communicate that to them so they understand that they are as much of a frontline presentation as you are, or staff is, or, Ms. Allen is at the front desk. So,
Right, but they have to be
Okay.
afforded the same opportunity to enforce our rules and
Sure.
have the staff and the town stand behind them if they throw somebody out for
oh, absolutely.
not following the rules. So, and speaking with Ms. Nail, I don't think we had too many issues with their staff
They were nice.
Okay.
in 2016. They were very responsive. They had a good manager there
Okay.
that handled things, and I think that's the way that we can address it, is directly through their pool manager or through Mr. Vincent,
Okay.
as he was very responsive to emails in 2016 as well.
Okay.
And
Yes, ma'am.
having spent every summer there for the last 10 years, this is one of the better ones.
Great. Okay. That's encouraging. Thank you. All right. And Ms. Wills, I'm not second guessing you. I don't mean to sound that, but I mean,
do
you just
understand
gotta.
what you're saying. I do.
I mean, this is pretty huge, and it's a beautiful facility. We want to maintain it,
Agree.
So, all right. So, with that having been said, Mr. Ritz, turning to you, having not heard immediately a response to the question, are you comfortable with the contract as it's presented?
Yes,
Okay. All right. So would you have issue if we were to call it to vote then?
I would not.
You would not. Very good. Okay. All right. Anybody else? Questions for staff or one another? No? Or comment? Okay. Very good. So at this time, is there a motion to accept the contract as presented to use RSV Pools Incorporated in this contract?
I'll make a motion to accept the contract for RSV Pools as presented today.
Very good. Thank you. Is there a second for the motion?
I'll second the motion.
The motion's been made by Commissioner Buckman. It's been seconded by Commissioner Blanchard. Is there any further discussion?
Once we vote, we're good to go this year, right?
Yes, and I would, in talking to the references, oh, you're making a motion. Go ahead.
This is discussion. Is there
Okay.
any further discussion? So we'll include you
In
where we
in
are.
the reference checks, they do offer more than 1 year, and then your rates are a little bit more affordable.
Sure.
So something that we may want to consider for next year is maybe doing a 2 or 3 year contract
Okay.
to then lock in our rates for a couple of years.
That's a very good idea.
Okay. Makes
Okay.
sense.
We
So,
are good. Once you vote for this, we're good for this
I just
year.
remember there was an issue years past where with the pool contract,
Yes,
but we're voting tonight. That's all we need.
yes.
correct.
Okay. Thanks.
Any further discussion?
No.
I'm good.
Commissioner? No? Okay. Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody against? No. And no restraint. All right. And Commissioner Sweeney is absent. The motion carries 4-0 with Commissioner Sweeney not attending at this time. Okay. Thank you, folks. We now move forward to, and staff, thank you for your legwork in this. This is appreciated. Ms. Nail, thank you very much for running our pool. Good. And Deputy Whitehouse. We'll see you there. Okay. Moving forward.